Welcome back to another episode of Estate Planning Nightmares and How to Avoid Them. I'm Jon Braddock, the founder of the Legacy Vault by My Life and Wishes, and the author of the Amazon bestseller, Click Here When I Die. Every week, we talk with some of the brightest estate planning attorneys in the country about real stories, real mistakes, and practical steps families can take today to avoid tomorrow's legal and emotional nightmares. Today's guest has one of the most unique backgrounds we've ever had on the show. Kate Tanner is a retired lieutenant commander who served in the U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General's Corps for 10 years, stationed in Bremerton, Washington, Yokosuka, if I pronounce that right, Japan, and in Washington, D.C. Now, she prosecuted crimes under the Uniform Code of Military Justice and went on to advise military commanders on everything from ethics and religious accommodations to sexual assault investigations and administrative separations. Boom. After years of helping service members navigate the legal fallout of their worst days, she sought a way to use the law to prevent problems before they happened. By starting Tanner Life and Estate Planning, Kate lives her passion daily by helping people and families and queer families make critical legal and financial decisions that prioritize protection and peace of mind. She believes that estate planning is for everybody and works in Kitsap County, Washington, to help clients make informed decisions with confidence and, most importantly, clarity. When not with her clients, you will find her digging and planting with the master gardeners of Kitsap County, skating with her teammates at Rat City Roller Derby, and knitting buried under blankets on her couch with her husband, Patrick, and their 3 rescue cats. Willow, this next one I love, Ruth Bader Ginsper, and Nannerpuss. Kate, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jon. It's such a pleasure to be here and to talk to you today.
And which one was that just climbed over your
Oh,
back?
that's Willow.
That's
You
Willow.
might see Ruth has parked herself in a box on the floor of my office, which as one of it was one of the folks over at Interactive Legal who was helping onboard me for drafting software for my business and saw Ruth pop up behind me and in her thick Mississippi drawl said, "Oh my God, that's a lot of cat." In fact, a lot of cat.
It's awesome. Well, I'm a pet lover and have had dogs through the years, only cats now. But so for our listeners, you can't see, but the cats are adorable. And for our viewers, I hope you like cats.
Because there will be some.
You bet. Well, hey, Kate, you you had what many people would consider a dream legal career in the Navy. What originally inspired you to become an attorney in the first place?
Oh, that's a great question. I originally I would say a very impressionable young college student at University of California, San Diego. I heard this guy named Rob Bell speak. Oh no, was it Rob Bell? No, it was oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but I heard someone speak that was doing a lot of work actually with trafficking victims and a lot of work with advocating for basically protections and reforms regarding human trafficking around the world, and did a lot of that work myself on campus, raising awareness about human trafficking. And when I asked this guy who had come to speak, I was like, hey, what if I was going to have to go to grad school for something or do something, what is the most useful thing that I could go and do and pursue? And he's like, honestly, a legal degree. He's like, there's not going to be a lot of things that you're going to have doors close with that. It makes you a Swiss Army knife for a lot of reasons, and I didn't really understand the advice at the time, but I just bought an LSAT book the next day and off I went. Um, but then when I got to law school, I really started understanding that. I was doing some work with our child advocacy center that was at the University of San Diego, where I went to law school, and did a lot of policy work there with them, and was in classes with some of the folks that run that center, which do fabulous work, and found that for me, it was hitting that work with child advocacy, human trafficking, domestic violence. It was hitting a little close to home. So I didn't feel like it was something I could maybe pursue long term, but it did really solidify my desire to be in public service. And it was in watching some of the Navy JAGs and Marine JAGs that were in the area come to our law school, and they would give kind of the here's the cool spiel about being in the military and being
Hmm.
an attorney at the same time. But it was actually really looking, especially at the Navy JAG Corps, which was like my top choice. The idea to be able to change up what I did every couple of years, potentially change where I live every couple of years, and really getting to be a part of an organization that does serve that big higher purpose, that you're part of something much, much bigger than yourself. That was really appealing. So it took a little bit to get in the door, but I'm persuasive once people start talking to me.
No, it's awesome. I always love to, find out how people get in. And I love the analogy, a Swiss Army knife, because, yeah, I mean, there's so many different practice areas within law, but when you go to law school originally, I mean, some people might be totally focused, I want to be criminal prosecution. I just want to be a corporate lawyer. But yeah, there's so many different avenues you can go. So that's really, really cool. So, all right. So Navy JAG Corps. All right. You've probably never heard anyone say this, but it makes me think of the movie A Few Good Men with Tom
What?
Cruise and Jack Nicholson.
One
Mind
of our
blowing.
best recruiting tools there ever was. Although, good Lord, if I ever had Lieutenant Caffey working for me, I would have slapped him upside the head. I don't know how Debbie Moore said it, did it.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What was husband? My love. Sorry, it's my
Oh,
birthday. Thank you, my darling.
hey, look at that. There's a first. We've never had a spouse bring flowers.
It's a good one, that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so, you're an attorney, so we have to take a sidebar now. What's the
Yes.
occasion?
Oh, it's my birthday today.
Today's your birthday.
It is actually, yeah.
Oh, happy birthday. I did not know that. That is awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Yes,
Great.
Few Good Men, one of our best recruiting tools. I would say I had actually, what's funny is an attorney that was one of my mentors starting out when I was a very baby jag, like fresh out of law school, fresh to the Navy, barely in for, I would have say like 4 months. I went and worked in Silverdale, Washington, here, just like around the corner from where I live now. And our civilian attorney, who was kind of like the big civilian legal bubba for for like legal assistance for service members in the area. He was also a reserve Navy JAG captain. His name was Dan Jones. And he he always said that the A Few Good Men came out the year that he joined the JAG Corps. So like a bunch of them all had the poster up in their offices, which I found hilarious. But man, like he was such an inspiration to me because of the way that he interacted with clients. It didn't matter if he was talking to an admiral or like the freshest seaman out of boot camp. He treated every client with like such compassion and genuine interest and humor. And that to this day inspired me. And he was the one that when I knew I was going to be medically retired from the Navy, and was thinking about maybe doing estate planning, he was the one that I went and talked to who encouraged me. And I think it's because he could see the real tangible effect that his work had on the lives of sailors, retirees, veterans. And that really, to this day really inspired me. He's now like retired in the hills of Indiana, like living his best post Navy life as like a multi-retired civil servant and retired Navy JAG captain now. So, but I
Uh,
still think about him every day when I'm working.
yeah, I mean, those who were blessed to have good people and good mentors early on, uh, game changing,
It is
game changing. So now you served all over the world, right? So
true.
was there one assignment that had the biggest impact on you?
Man, that's a great question. I would think, oh man, it's funny because there's a story from Japan which I will tell because it's still one of my like really proud moments as an attorney. I would say that in terms of the work I did when I was in Washington, D.C., I worked for the Chief of Naval Personnel, which is basically the Navy's chief HR officer, if you can think of it, in charge of all of the personnel policy and a lot of the personnel decisions for the Navy, oversees the way that we promote officers and senior enlisted folks. Um, I mean, unfortunately, one of the first chief of naval personnel I worked for has been since convicted of bribery. He maybe should have read the ethics memos me and the team wrote. I don't know. but
Oh my gosh.
true story. But story for a different time. but I would say that work was the most deeply impactful to me because it was, I mean, I helped rewrite fraternization policy. I was working on pioneering our office's response and policies surrounding how we do religious accommodations for folks requesting everything from I want to be able to wear a hijab in uniform to I'm a Norse pagan and I want to grow a beard. Um, so that was really fascinating work, seeing really the nitty gritty of how we do like merit-based promotions in like a like with based on statute, right? It's a wild thing that we do, to watch senior military leaders make decisions about, hey, we have a young officer who has a DUI. Do they get to promote? Should they stay in the Navy? Do we really believe in zero defect mentality anymore? So that was really fascinating and really powerful work. I will say my favorite job I got to have was I was the legal advisor to the submarine group commander that was here in Washington. I worked for actually four of them. It was, I'd call it COVID catch up. They had to like get them all back on track on their normal progression. But I worked for a lot of very interesting, like senior submarine leadership, which was fascinating. But I will say, back to Japan, I worked in, it's called Yokosuka, Japan. It's about an hour south of Tokyo. Um, Later on, for about the first 3 quarters of my time there, I was a prosecutor. And then I moved over to become a department head, supervising some of the young, like new attorneys, new JAGs, and giving legal advice to commands in the area that didn't have their own JAG assigned to them, as some commands do. And I was working with the Navy Information Operations Center that's in Yokosuka, and it's a bunch of these guys that are like they do all kind of like signals intelligence work, and they're like all of like the cyber guys. They do really cool stuff that like who knows, I was never cleared for any of it. They would have to like call around the office saying unclear, and it just kept made me thinking of Game of Thrones and the bell, and they're saying unclean, and I would always joke with them. But there was a new commanding officer who had come in, fresh from a tour on in DC, so very kind of like, and he was a Navy O5 commander, so kind of like that, right, that mid to senior level leadership in the Navy. Um, and he had a sailor that I still feel for him. He was kind of mid level rank wise, enlisted guy that had his wife basically dear John him, and say she
Mm.
was leaving, and he got very drunk, and I don't think he drove to base, but it was definitely that he called the command saying that he couldn't come. He was on duty. He was supposed to be on duty and he couldn't come because of how intoxicated he was, because he had been drinking all night long, and that he was not in a good way. So drinking, and especially like anything even close to a DUI, because the threshold in Japan, unlike here in the States, is 0.03 for your BAC. So it's like you could have a beer and like pop if you got pulled over, right? So it took,
Wow.
and it takes, they take it very seriously over there because, host nation relations, etc. Um, and so the new CO brought me in. We're going to talk about the case, and he, like, you could tell he was just like hot under the collar, like ready to mete out some justice about like preserving host nation relations and like good order and discipline and the whole thing through captain's mast, which is the process we have in the Navy to deal with minor offenses. So I remember speaking with the commanding officer and explaining to him, like, hey, here's the deal. Um, you have a sailor that's very clearly in distress who called the command and was very honest and forthcoming about basically committing an offense under the UCMJ, being too drunk for duty, right? Is that the type of behavior that you want to punish or incentivize? If you have a sailor that's in trouble and they're in a foreign nation and they actually call their command and they're honest and they ask for help, is that the type of behavior that you want to incentivize? That's, if I was a Navy, if I was in your position, that's how I would feel. And he looked me dead in the eye and he's like, I hate you, Jag. I was like, well, if I made your job easy, I wouldn't be doing my job. I was like, that's why they pay you the medium bucks, not me. I get paid the small bucks. But I still feel really connected to that and very proud of that moment, because that is what I've always tried to do as an attorney is, right, it's not the black letter of the law, it's not the books, it's not the rules, it's not like using justice, like using the legal system as like a weapon of justice and everything, but it can be restorative, it can be used in a way that really like can be powerfully used to take care of people. And I find that through line now in my work especially, which makes me really excited. I'm excited to go to work today, like every day now. It's fantastic. I mean, I was mostly in the Navy. It can be rough though.
Yeah, I can imagine, I mean, if you're thinking about being an attorney and stuff, and it's like, oh, I want to be a prosecutor, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I have to imagine that, beyond the amount of preparation you have to do for every case and think through every possible scenario. And these things can take weeks, months, however long you're going through them, that, I mean, burnout must, come quickly. So you mentioned that you medically retired. And so was it your conversation with your mentor when because you had a choice if you're gonna leave, right?
Yeah.
The service, you could certainly call, Morgan and Morgan or yeah, any of those huge firms and, you know, still prosecute and try and
Yep.
do that kind of stuff. So what was that moment or that shift where you said, you know what? It's about family, it's about planning, it's about legacy.
I love this question because it touches a couple things, which is uh, I'm very fortunate with the medical retirement that I have. It's two things. One, it's I'm very lucky that I have chronic conditions, not terminal conditions, which I'm very grateful for every day. And then I'm also in a position, especially my husband works for the shipyard here locally, that I could take some real time off to recover from some of the burnout that you spoke of, because that's real. And you don't get away with working, I would say, any number of years doing any kind of work related to criminal investigations, kind of no matter which side of the ball you're on it. Um, without it like without it affecting you. Some people are better at processing that than others. I'm a bit of a sensitive soul. But when I left, I was really struggling with, do I even want to be an attorney? And then once I kind of settled into like, yeah, I want to be an attorney. Do I want to go work I would have loved to have been like in-house counsel for the University of Washington or something like that. But it would have meant pretty much dealing with a really similar plethora of issues that I was dealing with on active duty, sexual assault and sexual harassment investigations, ethics complaints. It would have been a bunch of the stuff that I'm incredibly good at. But it was not, it was still just getting to be on the end of the punitive side of the law, and dealing with bad days and bad choices and bad decisions. And I really had to do some critical thinking, also about like what work life would look like for me, so I could accommodate the disabilities that I have in a way that would be sustainable. And I kept coming back to estate planning and thinking about, my mom recently, oh, I mean, it was probably what, 4 years ago now? About 4 years ago now. She met the love of her life late in life, and got married, and I got to be their officiant. And it was in watching her kind of navigate the conversation with her partner of like, hey, we met late in life. What does life look like for us now? What's the legacy that we want to leave? What is what does care look like? What does our life look like? My mom and I talk a lot about what happened when her mom passed away during COVID, and she was, um, alone in a nursing home for a very large chunk of that, right? And then when her father passed away, he had Alzheimer's, um, and we never really got to see what his will was, even to this day. Um, and so I'm like, I don't know. I think probably his wife, my grandmother, like his second wife, again, blended families. Um, I adore her. She's one of my favorite people in this world, but I still don't have clarity on that. And that kind of like gets under your craw. And I was like, man, there's such a missed opportunity for communication and connection in families. Because I think there's so much hesitancy to talk about dying and money, and taxes and all of and like what happens if somebody else needs to wipe my butt, and how do we how and I also, this is getting into me being a little bit preachy, but I'm going to do it anyways. I don't know, I really don't believe that we do elder care, and I definitely don't think that we respect our elders in the United States, and in like Western society the way I think that they really should be revered. I think that there's such a place for folks that are aging to be treated with such dignity and respect, and so their stories can be preserved, so their lessons can be preserved. And that was one of the things I was the most excited to do with this work, was get a chance to help families preserve those stories, right? I mean, for crying out loud, my grandmother, my mom's mom, her folks came over and emigrated from Italy. And I still, like, God, do I wish I had videos or audio of my grandmother, my nonna, telling stories of her dad passing through Ellis Island only to get his like suitcases stolen on the dock as soon as he stepped foot, and then like going to this shelter for new immigrants in the 1910s in New York City, only to like hear and connect with like a cousin of his, right? Like just like these crazy stories that I feel like get lost to the time unless we're really purposeful about preserving them.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people don't think about it, and as you and I both know, less than 50% of, our adult population even has will
Yeah.
in place.
I think it's 69% is the last statistic I saw.
Yeah, it's insane. And, you know, when people ask me, well, yeah, I know I should do it and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, to give a motivation, I usually just say, sit with this question for a minute. What do you want the experience to be like for your family after you die? Is that the legacy you want to leave? Sending them through probate, family disagreements, because family isn't going to all agree on the same thing, having turmoil,
Yeah.
the amount of time that it takes, the expense. Is that your legacy? It's not the legacy I want to leave. Right?
Absolutely. No,
And
I think that that's so salient. And even I would say a step before that too is guardianship proceedings, right?
you
Like,
bet.
who do you want making those medical decisions for you about your quality of life and care? And is it like, because I was like, I'll tell you, the state's got a plan for you, whatever state you're living in. It might not be the plan you want. And so I always like to remind clients of that. And I feel, but I think to your point and your question, I think that that is really powerful, especially for the folks that walk in with the attitude of, I'll be dead, so what does it matter? And I'm like, and I would say that any single person and any person I've talked to as I've kind of gone in the community and done some like community education events and some presentations, any single person that has ever had to deal with a loved one dying and had anything to do with touching that probate process wants nothing to do with it for a 10-foot pole. And so get real hot about getting their plans done, which I love. I love that. And they're usually spreading the gospel better than I ever could.
Yeah, I don't say this out loud, but when someone says to me, "Well, I'll be gone. What do I care? They'll figure it out." My brain, I just and I apply the filter, and I don't usually apply many filters, but it's like I just want to say, selfish much?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and then especially when you get to turn that and frame it as a what an incredible gift to leave, that your family doesn't have to think or worry about a thing because you've been so crystal clear in what your wishes and desires and plan are. Like,
Yeah.
what a gift to give to people.
And like you
So
say, even before death, because the who's gonna speak for you when you don't have a voice, but you're still here.
yeah.
Um, that's important. As a good friend of mine always says, very few of us are fortunate enough just to die.
Yeah,
He said most of
it's
us will
true.
slowly fade away through dementia or, God forbid, Alzheimer's or an illness. And yeah, so those are just critically important to have. Can't overemphasize it
Devastating.
enough.
No, it was interesting. Um I had a discussion with a client recently that it was interesting in Washington State, and I obviously am a Washington barred attorney. I can only speak to the state laws of Washington. Um, but for us, it's been an interesting push, and I think a really good push to make advanced care directives specific for dementia and Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's and dementia diagnoses are like very rarely categorized as terminal illnesses for the way that the state and then hospitals accordingly here deal with end of life care. So that advanced care directive that you would have that says, hey, no artificial food, nutrition, like food or hydration. I don't want to be on a ventilator, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's all well and good, but like there's can be a very long, protracted, like withering process that happens with dementias. I have two grandparents that went through it, and it was rough, and it was long, and to be able, I think, to have clear instructions while they're lucid or while I was lucid, to then to be able to give that to the people responsible for my care of, if I get dementia, if I get Alzheimer's, this is how I want that care to look. Like I'm going to be pushing that for every client I have now because I think it's a piece of the puzzle that I didn't even realize was kind of missing before. But that was something I was just kind of going down a research rabbit hole on just this past week.
No, I think that's brilliant, because so often, it's about documents and making sure we have everything in place and, which state basically who gets what and how they get it and those kind of things. But, um, you know, the advanced directives and all that stuff on the front end, like you say, before we get to that point where anyone's getting anything,
Yep.
what do you want it to be like for you? And to be able to say, out what kind of elder care do you want? And you know, if it's dementia, what do you think you're gonna want? You might not
Yeah.
remember, but um, it's interesting. So, like on your website, you say a couple things that I love. One is protect what matters most, because that's a saying that I say frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And and estate planning is for everyone. So, why do you think so many people still believe estate planning it's only for wealthy families?
Oh man. I think it I think it's a couple things. I think I think for a really long time it was anytime you ever heard about estate planning, it would be the reading of a will that's in a movie, right? And like it's I think of God, what is it? It's not it's is it Knives Out? Um
Oh yeah, Knives Out.
yeah,
Yeah,
Knives Out, and
one
right, it
of
is the
the
reading of the will and the whole thing. And it's we the only times I think we see culturally estate planning come alive is usually in the context of movies and media where it's a big estate. It's the big house, it's lots of money, it's a trust, it's like lots of whatever. And the fact of the matter is that it touches everybody's lives, but they don't know it because unless you've had to deal with it personally, there isn't a reason for you to know, which is why I personally believe in community education. Like I believe it is the prerogative and the responsibility of state planning attorneys wherever they are to be community educators, like regardless of whether it's driving clients into your door or not. Like I think that that is incredibly important because all it does is then help pull families out of crisis, whether it's they're dealing with grief and somebody just died and what do I do, or it's a hey, I have a clear plan for if I was ever in a car accident and my kid needs to go into the care of somebody else besides myself or my spouse. Here are the instructions on how to do that. Here's the life insurance funded trust to be able to do that. I also think that that's a big piece of it is people think that, well, I rent and I have like a retirement account that I'm putting money into, or if it's like somebody like me in their 30s, like I don't have a ton of assets, like why does it matter? And especially if you have minor kids, like that's when I feel like it's incredibly important to talk about life insurance and the ways that all of these kind of connect to who you want to raise your children may not be in the financial might not be the ones to like provide financially for them, but I would trust them to raise them according to my values. So then it's my job to make sure that financially they're set to be able to do that.
yeah.
So it's all these different things. But yeah, I think it's just honestly, I think people just don't know what they don't know. And that all of our frames of reference are really based on on like portrayals of wealthy families. And the fact of the matter is that it's it's for everybody. And I don't know, like if I'm like, trust me, the state's got a plan for you. I said it before, the state's got a plan for you if you
Right.
don't. So like, how good are you with that?
It's so true. I think a lot of people, and maybe a lot of younger people, when they hear the word trust, they think of, oh man, I remember being in college. That one
Mm-hmm.
pukey kid, he was a trust fund baby. Man, he's
Yep.
going to college, but he's never going to have to work. Well, yeah, there are some cases that trust can turn into that for the
Absolutely.
uber wealthy, and they can pass them down. Um, but what I think a lot of people miss out on, it's like, okay, I have a will, I'm all set. And for the most part, a will is better than having the state decide,
Well,
but
thousand
it
percent.
it still has to be probated. So, and that process can take 6 months to 2 years, depending on what it is, and there's a lot of expense to it. Whereas uh, the trust, my terms, this is not a legal term because I'm not a lawyer, but having a trust is like will on steroids, right?
Yeah.
It it effectively eliminates probate
Mm-hmm.
so that assets can transfer much more quickly. You don't have to go to probate, and it is private because a will
Yes.
is a public instrument that anyone can find a copy of.
You can find Jackie Onassis Kennedy's will, like
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
So
So
I love that you brought that up because that's always a point that I bring up with folks. And some people, I would say some clients feels more strongly than others about about probate being a public process and how comfortable they are with that. Some folks that some folks are really concerned with the privacy of it, and that's valid. And so a trust can be a really effective tool to help alleviate those concerns about privacy. And then one of my favorite things about trusts in particular is that they can be an incredibly powerful financial teaching tool. Because if you have an attorney that can draft them in a way that allows, especially if it's like a minor child that's coming into an adulthood, maybe they become a co-trustee and you can have them be in charge of helping manage maybe where some of those financial assets in the trust go to help teach them about what does investing look like, what's an ETF, what's a qualified retirement account, like what are all of these different tools to help them teach in a way that's structured and doesn't hand them, $100,000, $1 million when they turn 21 and then congratulations. Like if somebody handed me, I swear to goodness, if someone handed me $1 million when I was 21, I was an absolute dummy when I was that age. Like I would have burned through it like great. And I've watched it happen to family friends of exactly that. Three brothers all got, and like they're all kind of my mom's age. Three brothers all got $1 million when they turned 21 and they are all bankrupt now. Right.
Mhm.
And it's just like, I think, but to that point, it can be this really powerful way to educate and kind of slow drip responsibility so that it can teach and train the next generation. And like what a legacy to leave, right? To be able to like help people get an education if they want to get an education, if they want to go to an apprenticeship, to be able to help fund that through a trust, but then to help be able to teach them financial literacy, which is so powerful. And like so I'm a big fan of using trusts in a way that can help educate folks, and provide like care where it needs to provide care. Like there's so many cool things that you can do with it. And I think people think it's really out of reach. And my
Yeah,
goal is to help.
financial literacy is like a huge problem.
Oh,
In this country, I had a guest on my podcast a month or maybe 2 months ago, and he's on this huge mission to get financial literacy out there because you know
good.
what, they certainly don't teach you any of that in school,
Not
and
anymore.
the government should be teaching that, but quite frankly, I don't think our government wants us to be financially literate because otherwise, we might not need them as much. So, but not to get political, but I want to pivot. Um, so one thing that makes your practice unique is that you have a focus on also serving queer families. Can you tell us why that became important to you? And are there planning issues or concerns that the LGBTQ plus families face that many of us don't realize?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Man, this is something that it hits home for me. My mom and her wife are married in Florida. Um, which hurricanes aside, is I would say, tumultuous political environment down in Florida, especially for the queer community. Um, and especially with comments that Supreme Court justices have made in the past about potentially going back, and reversing some decisions with regards to gay marriage. Um, I think there is rightly so a lot of fear, concern, and trepidation in queer communities across the United States. I'm bisexual, so I'm part of the community. It took me a long time to kind of come out, and especially I'm in a straight. You saw my handsome husband. I'm in a very
Your
straight
handsome
passive
husband brought
relationship.
some flowers in
Brought
for
my
your birthday.
flowers. But I would say that it was my time in DC, when I was working under the under the first Trump administration that decided to reverse course the first time on inclusion of transgender service members. And I have worked alongside trans service members. Um, and those are some resilient folks, man. And so I did the best I could in the position I had to create guidance and policy that could meet what the administration's stated goals were, regardless of whether or not I agreed with them, but in a way that would soften the impact to the folks most impacted by potentially losing their jobs because of the fact that they were trans and wanted to be able to transition and continue to serve. Um, and as a result of that, I became very passionate about wanting to give back to that community, and a community that has given me a lot of, and especially roller derby, I don't know if you know, is a very queer space. It's a very neurodivergent, very queer space. And that community has given a lot to me. So I offer sliding scale services for queer people and for queer families because I feel really strongly about their access to it, especially when we are talking in a political environment. And I hate to get political on your podcast, but it's those there is concerns about, like, for example, my mom's marriage basically being dissolved at the federal level. And there are so many tools within estate planning through powers of attorney, through trusts, through all of these really powerful estate planning documents that you can recreate and solidify the rights that are enshrined in marriage and kind of expected for marriage, but as a way to provide a stopgap and a backstop really for families that might be uncertain about what their future looks like, if their marriage to their long-standing spouse is going to still be valid 10 years from now. Okay, well, let's get a plan in place so that, knock on wood, if crazier things happen, that you have a plan in place that's going to make sure that it's your spouse and your beloved partner of years or months or whatever, trusted people making those decisions for you. Yeah, I feel really passionately about that work. I had a client recently talking about, especially um, doing the AIDS crisis and how many people were really dying during that time, and people that couldn't sit by the bedside of their partner as they died because they didn't have the rights because they weren't a spouse.
I
Um,
remember, when when that was going on, and it's heart wrenching, right? And we've made so much forward progress, um, you know, through the years to where we are today, and um, good for you. I mean, what you're doing, I think, is very impactful for that community. I personally have many, many uh, good friends in the community.
yeah.
Married with their life partners, and I can only imagine if someone came in and said they were dissolving Michelle in my marriage,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so all right. So just a couple more questions, and I know I'm going to let you go because you are busy. Um, I always call this my lightning round. Okay,
Love
so
it.
coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right, yeah, go. Favorite place you were stationed?
Ooh, I would actually here, beautiful Pacific Northwest. I came back and stayed.
I love it. Best thing about roller derby, I have to ask.
Oh my God, it's a legal way to get out all of my pent up aggression. Hit your friends legally.
Oh, I never looked at it like that. I love that.
That's how I told the people, the submariners I worked with were very intense, very engineering types. I was like, that's how I don't punch you guys in the face, is I go and I hit my friends.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I always thought it'd have been really cool to be a submariner, um, but I like to sleep with the window open.
Yeah, not an option.
Yeah. Uh, hey, Kate, uh, for our listeners today, especially those who are in your area, but anywhere, if there are, maybe they have a question, about planning in their community, right? How can people learn more or reach out to you?
Oh, absolutely. I love doing free consults. It's one of my favorite things, is just a chance to talk and educate with people. If folks are in Washington State, you can go to tannerestateplanning.com. And if you're on Instagram, my Instagram handle is Tanner underscore ESQ for Esquire. Additionally, I always love giving a plug to um, your local law schools usually do clinics and have a bunch of really great resources and are a great place to start if you're looking for maybe some ways to educate yourself. One of my personal favorites in Washington State is WashingtonLawHelp.org. They do and produce a bunch of really fabulous education materials, resources to kind of do your own powers of attorney. My general PSA is, hey, like I always love get in with an attorney that will give free consultations so you can kind of assess and see, is a DIY plan going to work for you, or do you have some stuff that's in your life, your family history, your asset profile that means you should talk to somebody with who's gone to law school and suffered through 3 years of nonsense and then a legal practice to help you out. Because I think there's some really great estate planning attorneys working out there. And I think the model is shifting to being really heart centered and about really helping family instead of just churning out documents that sit in a drawer and
I
turning
love
into
that.
plans that actually work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to provide that clarity and have a plan that actually works when the time comes.
Ain't it the
Um,
truth?
and also for our audience, below in the show notes, I will have Kate's website as well as her Instagram in there. So feel free to reach out. This has been super enjoyable. I love your perspective,
Oh,
what you're
thanks, John.
doing, what you've seen firsthand, what you've lived through, and now uh, your dedication to the career to helping families. So thanks so much again for joining us today and doing the work that you do.
I'm so grateful for the time, John, and for what you're doing to really raise kind of a collective awareness about the role that estate planning can play for every family. It means a lot to me, the work that you do, and really grateful for you and for the time today. Thank you.
You're very
What a
welcome,
good
and
way to
thank
spend a
you.
birthday, right?
Right, fun. I wish I had known. I would have like put some balloons or something up behind me.
Absolutely. That's why I don't tell people.
And you, our listeners, thanks again, as always, for joining us. And remember, your life is your legacy. So plan ahead and make it a great day.